All right, so I'm back with another video, and in this one, I want to say that I think that one thing about like surviving like really difficult like circumstances is like similar to like what a deer would do in nature. The approach and the spirit of a deer is to be spontaneous, but also to be spontaneous, you have to improvise upon and recognize the advantages and the strengths of your position and your within an environment, and the dangers, but also the opportunities. And sometimes some people would say that it's mission first, but sometimes the actual opportunities can afford the mission in the greater interest of a campaign. And that's actually a little bit of the difference between what would be appreciated as an officer and an enlisted person. I have enough learning to know that there's a difference between an officer and an enlisted person in like in some of your Western militaries. And there's actually a different oath that's sworn between an enlisted person and a commissioned officer. And some of it, the nuance in the wording of their oaths, it has to do with a little bit of the scope of their responsibility and duty, and what's expected of them. And oaths are very significant. I can say that there's a couple of times when I've made promises in my heart, and some of my outcomes in life have been different than some of my peers. And I think that some of it might actually be a function of some of the different promises that I've made in life, and how they somehow we're held to account to our promises and agreements in this life past what we can appreciate consciously. And some of our outcomes would reflect that. Um, but but one of the differences between an officer and an enlisted person is that an enlisted person is expected to follow orders to the letter. And I would say that maybe I think in the military it's appreciated that in different tiers of the military, that the mission is more significant than the welfare of a particular member of a group, or in a group itself, because there's no welfare of a group or of an individual or a group without the purposes of the mission, nor the country or the people they serve are not served by a failed mission, and neither therefore are the members of that mission. So the mission would come first. Um, but but to that extent, there are some times where following the rules can be redundant, or they cannot serve a higher mission, a higher purpose of an overall. Because you have battles, and then you have wars, and then there's you have like many battles would amount to the outcome of a war. And I don't know that any war has ever amounted to anything beneficial in the truest sense, because I don't know that there's something to be gained for that much pain and punishment and lost life. But it's so appreciated that you have like a tier of priority in very difficult things. And a person who is an officer is expected to understand. First of all, they have access to higher tiers of a. So you have tactics, and then you have strategy. A tactic is how you overcome a particular obstacle, a smaller tier obstacle. It can be very significant, but a tactic would be like or an organized method for an individual incident or conflict or an exchange. Then a strategy is a combination of tactics or engagements that are broader and a little bit more long term. Or a strategy is a deeper, more fundamental motion of it's like a higher form of tactics, is strategy. So you can maybe say that what's expected of a soldier or an enlisted person would be like more so tactics, and then a higher leader, or like an officer or whatnot, is more so responsible for strategy. And you need a degree of both, but also they have different things that there's different strong suits. There's some things that a soldier or an enlisted person would be stronger at likely than an officer, but then the officer is also privy to insight and intelligence, and then in learning, that would form a deeper motion. And all I meant to say is that the only reason I'm bringing that up is because sometimes an officer is expected to dispense with what a mission was commissioned as, because in the first place, if a mission is top down, coming from command, and then an officer is with enlisted people in an actual environment, that officer may now have intelligence that it doesn't have. There's not an opportunity to share that intelligence with oversight that is command in a way that would suit or serve that particular demand, or also the potential advantage that an opportunity that a situation would provide. But the officers expected to recognize that and seize that, and either mitigate a failure in the mission, or an oversight, something that was overlooked in the setting of a mission, or the circumstances of a mission, or the development of a mission, and then also capitalize on opportunity. But the deepest aspect of that is spontaneity and improvisation within within the eccentric features of a situation or terrain or environment. So sometimes the mission can have a different mission than it was set out as, and an officer would be responsible to recognize that and capitalize on that, or mitigate for that if there had been a problem. But the only reason I'm saying that is that sometimes all of us have maybe something of an if we have liberty, if we're civilians, we have some level of agency and ability to make choices for ourselves and others that would rival or surpass what would be available to even an officer, because that officer is still bound by duty and obligations, and even allegiance and affiliation. Officer is bound by some of that, so they, in some respects, they can be limited, even more limited than a civilian. And sometimes civilians might have access to training and resources that would surpass even an officer or an enlisted person. And that's why all people still answer to the people, because it's the people first. And if the people have a problem, then it's a real problem. Past any uniforms or fancy technology, it's still the people that call the shots and even pay the bills in all walks of life. And you saw some of that with like some of the unrest, like around the time of the slaying of around the COVID pandemic, the public slaying, assassination of a marginalized person that caused a lot of unrest during the pandemic. You saw what kind of accounting the common people can demand at times, because that's actually the strength. The power is still the people, is still with the people. But all I meant to say is that one thing that you can do is that sometimes what you set out as, there can be an opportunity or an advantage that can amount to a greater meaning or benefit or contribution. So as I'm making this channel about different subjects, I just had a teachable moment today where somebody potentially interviewed me to victimize me, and it's not the first time I've seen a car that talks, but it's still teachable, and I'm just offering it in that for that purpose. And that's the type of things that some people that are saying marginalized, that's the type of experiences that we have, to contrast the type of experiences you can imagine would be going on in a well-to-do middle-class neighborhood or college campus. The type of cool, fun stuff, sexy stuff, delicious stuff, interesting stuff, enlightening stuff, difficult stuff, lucrative stuff, humanitarian stuff that would be going on somewhere like that. You got little old nobodies that are trying to do right in life, and we're getting these type of experiences in the face of all that. So I had a vehicle today on my way back, walking back from family after being helped with equipment to make some honest income while I'm being extended because of a misdealing that also might be a function of my appearance and stature and status. Is that I had a vehicle, someone that would look like me ostensibly, and accost me from a vehicle, which is that a person knows, we all know the history, so that if you're talking to someone out of vehicle, you should damn well have a reason, because a person can think anything of why you would be talking to them out of vehicle, or what the hell you could have with you in a vehicle, or who the hell you could have with you. So no one should be talking to us out of vehicle in traffic. And then on top of that, you're asking a person for directions, ostensibly to go to somewhere that you don't know how to get there, but you would have a reason to go there. So I think if you had a girlfriend, you had a delivery, or even you had a friend, maybe you could reason friend or girlfriend like in the past before we had technology. But if you have any reason to go to an address that you're not sure where it's located, the type of reason you'd have to go there, you'd be attended by some type of GPS device, so that you're talking to me out a window is more so likely interviewing me, but then also establishing a relationship, because somehow you need a relationship and pretense to access a person, even for victimization. So that's the type of interviews that we get. So while other people are getting job interviews and romantic interviews in life, we're getting victim interviews. Some of us brothers going up and down doing righteous business.